All right. So thanks for coming. Thanks for being part of this. This is the first of our virtual PD series from January through May. Tyler Kearns is going to present today. Most of you all know Tyler, and if you don't, he's the program director at Clayton Kid Zone, right outside of St. Louis. Tyler has presented for us multiple times at Mosaic conferences, did at least one, maybe two of our presentations last spring for us. Has presented at NAA a couple of times, the National Afterschool Association convention. So experienced presenter, experienced in working with kids. He's a play ambassador for, what's the organization, Tyler?
The Genius of Play.
Genius of Play. So I think what he's got for us today is going to be really helpful. Like we said before this, we are trying to gear these toward frontline staff. So for those of you that are frontline staff, this is for you. And if you're not frontline staff, maybe you'll pick some things up that you can pass on to your staff. And Tyler will tell us a little bit about, if you would, Tyler, tell us where this training came from and how it developed, and we'll just turn it over to you.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Brad. So as Brad said, I am the program coordinator for Clayton Kid Zone. So I oversee 3 elementary programs that are currently running about 30 kids every afternoon. We usually run 70 to 80. So had quite a big jump there. But then we also have an early childhood before and after school program. So this is my 12th year in Kid Zone. I've only ever known before and after school in my career. I was actually sharing with a few people yesterday. I went to school to be an art teacher and then, never found a job, and then got posed with the choice of an art position with a district here in St. Louis or running the before and after school program. And I went the before and after school route and haven't looked back. So this is my 12th year. And I've been a frontline worker, I've been an assistant site leader, and now I've been program coordinator for 9 years. So this training actually came from a training I just did with my staff at the beginning of January. So we always kind of do a welcome back staff training and just kind of a refresher for some of our veteran staff of just some things. I always joke, I'm like, it's the things that I always forget to teach you. That I have to sit down and think about and put together, or else I'll keep forgetting to show you. And then for our new staff, it was just a way for them to get some, as our staff have started calling it, the Kid Zone vibe. So how we talk to kids, what we've learned, a lot of it comes from actually our parent educator in the district. I work very closely with her, even before I was a parent, and just on language of working with youth. I always looked at our before and after school program, us more, yes, we're teachers, but we also wear a lot of hats as far as, sometimes we're parents, sometimes we're siblings, sometimes we're coaches, sometimes we're mentors, sometimes we're counselors, and the list goes on and on and on. So I want to make sure that reflected in the ways that we were working with our kids. So that's kind of where this training has came from. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. Maybe. All right, so what you're going to need for this workshop, if you have something to write with and a few sheets of paper, we're going to be doing some doodling and drawing and writing. So go ahead and grab that. You're also going to need confidence to share, possibly mess up, and then share again. So we're going to be, calling on people. We're going to be doing some breakout rooms. Which, breakout rooms don't really work if nobody's sharing. You just all get into a room and you kind of stare at each other blankly, and then we bring you back and you're like, I don't know, nobody shared anything. So just have some confidence. It's okay if you mess up, or if, you do something and it's silly, that's fine. Just laugh at yourself and keep going. You also need a great attitude and a smile.
Hey, Tyler.
Yeah.
We're still seeing your opening screen, your opening slide.
Well, that's not good.
And I was pretty sure that you had switched, just because I've seen the.
Yeah. Hold on. I don't know what's going on. Try again. Better?
There we go. Yep.
All right. So who can tell me what this is a picture of? Anybody?
Batman.
I said Batman. Any other guesses?
Utility belt.
Yeah, I was going to
It-
say like his belt that with all his tricks and, tools he has to use to fly.
It's not Batman because it doesn't have the Batman logo on his belt.
Is it Captain America?
It's actually Clint Dar on the weekends. So no, it is Batman with his utility belt, according to the Google image search that I pulled up. But the biggest thing I wanted to look at was the utility belt. So we know as youth workers, we have to have every trick and secret and strategy that we can when we're approaching our kids, because all of our kids are different. And like Batman, he had something for everything. Even if you go back to the old Batman movie, he even had shark repellent, which I always thought was the silliest thing, even as a kid. It was just this little spray that a shark was on his leg and he sprayed it and the shark fell off. So if we could just have that right now, in this 6-foot world, when those kids invade your personal 6-foot bubble, that we can just spray them a little bit and get them off, that could be helpful. All right, so our first tip is to know yourself. So you really want to think about what are your strengths as a youth worker. So whenever you're coming to work, what are your strengths? What are you good at? Is it organization? Is it working with kids? Is it connecting with kids? Is it activities? We have a lot of people that are just like, when they come in, they're like, I just want to do outside and gym. Like, can I just do that? I'm like, that's great. But you're going to also have to do homework help and, set up snack. And they're like, well, no, I'm like the gym guy. Like, that's awesome. We'll use you in the gym, but you're also going to have to do some other things. But, I also look at that person's strengths as being the gym guy to maybe teach us some new games or work with my younger staff and teach them some new games. But it's also important to know what your weaknesses are. So know what you're not good at, and then find those strengths in your teammates. So if I'm not good at organization, which is pretty true, my staff will tell you that, I rely a lot on them to be like, hey, can you remind me to do this? Can you, they'll send me a text and be like, I forgot to clock in. I'm like, email it to me, because if I don't see it in my email, I'm not going to add it to the time if it's just a text. So I know that is one of my weaknesses, and I've had to figure out, who I can rely on and other ways that I can adapt for that. So knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses are going to just help you become a better teacher or youth worker. The other big one is, what's your why? And if you are a leader or in a position of management, having your staff know why they're there. Not the physical, like, we show up to just hang out with kids. Like, of course, that's the why. But why did you choose Kid Zone? Why did you choose Adventure Club? What was it that drove you to be like, okay, I want to work with kids? And for some people, it may just be, hey, it's a paycheck. But you can just get, hey, it's a paycheck at Starbucks. You can get, hey, it's a paycheck at Target. What made you come to our program and want to work with kids? So I just want everybody to take a minute on your piece of paper and just write down, what's your why? Why are you in the position that you're in? I'm not going to have you share these. Some of these can get pretty personal, but I just want everybody to know kind of what their why is. And these whys are always changing too. I know starting out, my why was one thing, and now it's a completely different reason, but they still relate around what the kids are. And if there's anybody that would like to share, go ahead and throw that in the chat box or unmute, and you can share out. All right, on that same piece of paper, I want you to draw a bucket. Doesn't have to be a great bucket. You're not going to show anybody. Just draw your best bucket. And then once you have your bucket, I want you to fill your bucket by writing what are the things that fills your bucket. Like when you come into work, what are the things that make you happy? If you're having just a horrible day, nothing's gone right, you got stuck in traffic, you know, that 3 o'clock time hits and you're going on site with the kids, what are the things that are going to fill that bucket for you? I can tell you, for me, it's the kids' energy when they come down. Just that is just a game changer for me. I could be having the worst day, and as soon as they start coming down the hallway and I'm, you know, talking to them and, you know, telling them use your turtle feet, don't play in the bathroom, and, you know, immediately switch into that, like my day just turns upside down for the better. So usually it's the kids' energy, the stories that they have, you know, the things that they want to show me, especially the little ones, our kindergarten and first graders. They always have something to share, like a picture they drew, their new shoes, you know, that their brother did something funny at home. But those are the things that fill my bucket. So would somebody like to unmute and just share some things that fill theirs? We have a quiet group and I just have to scroll through and pick on people.
I'll unmute. I'm driving, so I'm gonna fill you in while I drive because this is my life sometimes. So I have really started working more with middle school and high schoolers, and I think even just getting that interaction with them, like, "Hey, Coach Steph, how's it going?" or "Hey, I had a really rough day," and so we get to talk about it for a minute. Like just seeing them, and the fact that they even acknowledge you at 15 years old, I think is a really big win for me. It's one thing for me to have like little ones because little ones are great, but I really dug in with some middle school, high school this year. And that's for me has been the coolest is getting acknowledged by them. I know that sounds weird, but having them tell me little things about what's going on with them, I think has been like that fills my bucket every day. Getting up in the morning, school, and so getting there at 6:30 makes my whole day perfect.
That's awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. Anybody else want to share?
Hey, Tyler. I always like how kids are truth tellers, and you know, they tell the truth about observances of you, which is one of my favorites over the course of the years. But they're, especially the younger ones, they're truth tellers.
Definitely. Thank you, Lena. Anybody else? We'll take one more.
Kim here. I think because I work mostly with adults now, and I don't work directly with the students.
Okay.
I feel really, really good about when we've had a successful.
Am I unmuted?
I think I'm unmuted. But anyway, no, when we've had successful training sessions and the staff members can go back with things, that concrete things that they say, I can do that. This would be perfect for such and such group. Those things give me a lot of joy.
Great. Thank you, Kim. And now next to your bucket that you drew, I want you to draw a button, like a push button, not like a close button, but I guess it could be either one. No one's looking at it. And then draw it nice and big because now you're going to write on that button everything that pushes your buttons when you work with kids. I know for me, the biggest one right now is the sassy back talk. And particularly with our first graders, and they have lots of sass when they come down in the afternoon, and anything you say, they're going to say right against you and just, you know, push that button and drive it in as much as they can. So that's, I know, one of the things that pushes my button. So Brad, is annotate on?
Don't know that it is. I don't think so.
Okay. Well, we won't annotate on the screen, but if you want to throw in the chat box or unmute, what are some things that push your buttons?
Tyler, no patience, not willing to wait.
You scared me for a second, Kay. You said Tyler first. I'm like, I push your button?
Oh, no. Just no patience, no not willing to wait, or, but that's pretty much adults too, but kids are notorious for that.
Definitely.
I think mine is the unwillingness to try, right? Like we want to do something or we have this, and rather than try, they're like, ugh, I don't like doing that. We haven't even tried. Like, let's just give a little bit of an effort. Or it's too hard, I can't do that. Well, have we tried? No, right? Like, you haven't even tried. Like, we're trying to teach you grit and skills and discipline and all these different things. And, you know, it could be something as simple as a math problem or a puzzle or something. Ugh, I get a lot of ugh. And that, like,
Definitely. Thanks, Stephanie. We had some good ones in the chat with rolling eyes, giving up after the first effort. And would you like it if they did that to you? I wouldn't care. So those are all great, but it's important to know all of these things. So your strength and weakness, your why, what fills you up, what brings that positivity, and what pushes your buttons. So when you come in, you know, when those kids start to push your buttons, you know, they start saying those things that you can get out of there. You can go talk to a different kid. That's the great thing. I tell my staff, I'm like, you know, in a normal year, we have 70 kids. One kid's pushing your buttons, leave them with somebody else and go hang out with the kids that you like that are going to fill your bucket, and then come back and deal with that kid once your bucket's full. So it's important that your staff, and if you're frontline, that you know these things, because that's all going to help you improve your day, like your job that you're coming to, and work with the kids. A big one, especially when we're working with our young ones, is to work with them and not at them. So with our little ones, we want to make sure we get down on their level. That includes, you know, sitting on the floor, or if they're, you know, laying down, that you lay down with them, because that's showing, you know, if we think back to, you know, when we were all babysat and that babysitter stood over us and pointed the finger or told us to go here or there, like that didn't make us feel great. So we want to make sure that we are getting down with the kids and letting them know that we're one of them, and we really just want to talk with them. You can still be stern and still be confident in your talk, but you want to approach them from their level so that you're not quite as scary. When you're working with older kids, that may be standing up, or you may already be looking up at them, depending on how tall they are if you're working with high school. So maybe, you know, you need to match their level, stand on a stool, or, you know, sit down with them. But it's very important to get down on their level. One of my favorite things is when I go to talk to a student and I sit down, so I'm on their level, but because I sat down, they sat down. So then it becomes a competition of who like is going to ultimately get the lowest. And then eventually we're just laying on the floor because we're just modeling after each other. But then by that time, we usually have forgotten what we're talking about and we're laughing and we're ready to move on. Another big strategy is to use empathy. So kids want to know that you're on their side, even if there's going to be something else coming, whether it's, you know, missing activities or, you know, something, but they want to know that you heard them and that you're feeling what they're feeling. So, you know, anytime a kid comes up to us or comes up to me and, you know, it could be the littlest thing, I lost my ponytail. You know, the first thing I'll do is, oh, that is such a bummer. Like, I don't care about this person's ponytail holder. You know, it doesn't affect my day that she lost her ponytail, but she needs to feel like it affected my day. So just taking that moment to pause and going, that is a real bummer, or shoot, that sounds really important to you. Just so that they know that you are on their side, you are feeling what they're feeling, and that you're ready to work with them. Because if I just go, okay, and walk away, they're gonna be like, but no, you don't understand. Like, that was my ponytail holder. I'm like, okay, buy a new one. Here, I got a rubber band. You need to put your hair up. That's not the point. We're not there to solve their problem at that point. They just want you to know, like, this is how I'm feeling. Or those kids that get out and tag and they're like, it's the worst. He didn't tag me. I'm like, you know, it stinks that you got tagged. Nobody likes to sit out or be eliminated, but, you know, in 3 minutes, we're going to be back in. But as soon as I go, yep, I know, that stinks. I don't like being tagged. I'm immediately on their side. So use an empathy to connect with them, to slow down the conversation and let them know that their feelings do matter. So it validates what they're feeling, even if it's the littlest thing that, you know, in the big picture, in the big world, it's not the biggest of deals. But to them at that moment, it is a huge deal. This next one is something that I teach also in leadership. So those of you that work with staff, you want to make sure that everybody you're working with, from kids to staff, are being seen, they're being heard, and being included. So, you know, being seen doesn't just mean that, yeah, I see you, I physically see you, you're here. Like I see Brad, I see Clint, I see Lena, you know, they're all here, but that's not necessarily seeing them. You want to make sure that that person is seen. So when they come down to check in, you know, you're saying, hey, how's your day? What's going on? You know, did you get your homework done? That you're connecting with them and letting them know that you're part of that in the program. I kind of relate this back to my high school job. I worked at a small town grocery store that had no surveillance cameras. And there was usually only 2 of us working. There was a cashier, and then one of us would work in the back and stock all the shelves and do everything else. And so it was our job to also be security, to make sure that, you know, nothing was walking out the door, things like that. So our manager at the time, he said, the first thing you need to do anytime somebody walks through the door or they're looking at something in the aisle is just go, hey, how can I help you? Can I help you find something? 9 times out of 10, they'll say, no, I'm good. You just go, okay. And then you just go about your business. But, you know, I asked him one day, I was like, why do you want us to do this to every single customer? Some of these customers, being from a small town, we saw 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. And he's like, doesn't matter. He goes, the biggest thing is they know that you see them and that you're watching them. They know that you know that they're in the store, and they're less likely to put something in their pocket and walk out. It's like, that's the biggest thing that we have right now for anti-theft. We don't have cameras, we don't have an alarm, but that's the biggest thing we can do. And then now, as you see that, like, well, it used to be when you walked into Walmart, you know, everybody wanted to help you. Now you can't find anybody to help you. But you know, that's one of the biggest things that I picked up from even that job that I brought into working with kids, is they just want you to know that they're there. Same thing with being heard. You know, if they have ideas, they have, you know, thoughts or activity choices or ideas for snack, you don't have to necessarily do all of them, but they want you to acknowledge that. They want you to be able to go, yeah, think about that, or let me write that down. And you write it down, and probably 50% chance they're going to forget about it the next day, but they want to see something that they've been heard. So whether you write it down or you write it on a board or you try it the next day, if they have a game idea, go, yeah, we can try to play that. And you try it. And if it doesn't work, you go, hey, how can we change it? But at least their ideas and they're being incorporated. And then on that same page, that they're being included. So we want to make sure that kids feel included and that they're part of the program. It's not just, okay, well, I planned this activity, this activity, this activity. I know with my staff, I'm like, if we come in and we have this perfect, what we think is the perfect day planned, and a kid goes, hey, can I try to get a game of Lava Monster together? We may just throw out our plans for the day and be like, yeah, let's play Lava Monster. Because more than likely, that's what they want to do. And then we can try to fit in our activities with that. So just making sure that, you know, kids and staff are being seen, heard, and included. And a big strategy I picked up from our parent educator was the I notice. So, you know, we sometimes get in the habit of I like. So when you know, that kid comes in and they're wearing those brand new shoes and you're like, hey, I like those shoes. Or, you know, I really like that color purple on you. That starts to get into their brain and they're like, oh, well, I want to impress Mr. Kearns now. So I'm going to wear purple every day because he liked the color purple. Or, you know, or I like the way that you're drawing that. Well, that becomes, oh, well, now it's about what my teacher likes, about what Mr. Kearns likes. It's not about what I like. So a simple strategy is just to change the I like statements to the I notice statements. So, hey, I noticed you got new shoes. And then that kid will be, oh, I did. And they helped me run so much faster. And watch this. And then they'll run down the hallway and you're like, oh, hold on, slow down. Do we run in the hallway? Like, no. All right, show me how fast you can run outside. But we want to make sure, you know, that we're noticing things. I notice, you know, all the colors that you're using in your artwork. am using a lot of colors. And then you can, can you tell me about that? And let them tell you about what they're doing. So don't make it about you, make it about them. So it's not about what you like, it's about what you're noticing. Any questions? My chat box went away, so I don't know. Okay. The big one, but also a tough one, is avoiding power struggles. So the way I explain to my staff about what power struggles are, it's when you go, hey, you need to do this. And the kid goes, no, I don't. You're like, yes, you do. No, I don't. Yes, you do. No, I don't. And you go, yes, you do. And they're like, well, why? Because I'm the teacher, or because I said so, right? That is like the worst thing we can do, because really you're arguing with, in our program, like a third grader. And sometimes I have to, talk with my staff. I'm like, you're 23 years old and you are arguing with third graders who are 7, 8 years old. Like, do you want to argue with the third grader? They're like, well, no. I'm like, well, that's what's happening is you are literally just going back and forth with a, second, third, fourth, fifth grader. So the way I teach my staff to avoid power struggles is to, first of all, set expectations. We bring the kids in on this. So from day one, we have what we call our Kid Zone high five, which is, to be safe, to be kind, be responsible, cooperative, and respectful. And then we build off of those 5 expectations. So what does it mean to be safe in the hallway? And the kids will help us answer that. We walk, we, hang our backpacks up. We don't have stuff on the floor. What does it mean to be safe in the cafeteria? So our first couple months is just going over what we call the Kid Zone high five, and just setting those expectations and letting the kids come up with those expectations. Because then when we let them come up with them and they break them, we can say, hey, you came up with this. You told us that, on the playground, we don't go down the slides head first, or we don't go down 7 at a time. And they'll go, oh yeah, I remember that. There's a lot of programs that I know that, write them down either on a whiteboard or make a bulletin board in their rooms or in their cafeterias that have, those expectations. We use those just 5 words. And then on the back of our lanyards, a lot of our teachers will put those 5. So in the back of their name tags, we'll put those, safe, kind, cooperative. That way, when they sit down to talk with the kid, they can say, hey, which of these 5 are we not following right now? Which one of these are of our expectations are we not following, and how can we change that? A big strategy from the world of parenting is enforceable statements. So again, taking the telling of the kids what to do out of it, and just telling the kids what you're going to do. So this is changing your phrasing. So saying what you will do with an I statement. So something like, I will take the line out when the noise is lower. We played around a lot with this. When I first learned this, this comes from Love and Logic, kind of the behavioral management system. And it worked, it was working well. Our whole school district kind of switched to that verbiage for a while. But what I was finding when we were trying to do this with 70 to 80 kids as a whole group, that line wasn't going anywhere. Using the phrase, well, we will go outside, or, I will take everybody out when everyone is quiet. There's no way to get 70, 80 kids quiet. It's going to be impossible. But we're still phrasing it to what you were going to do, not telling the kids, okay, it's time to be quiet. We have to go outside. It's time to be quiet. So you're putting that responsibility back on them. So these work really well one-on-one. They work really well in small groups. Once it gets to bigger groups, you're looking for a majority, or you're saying, I will call students that are ready. And then you're looking for those students that are ready. And then as soon as Johnny gets to go, and Susie gets to go, and Beth gets to go, then Miles is back there and he's like, wait, I didn't get to go yet. All my friends is back, all my friends are outside and I'm still right here. And eventually, hopefully he catches on. When we were experimenting with this and playing with this, we tried we are gonna wait until everybody's ready. And we waited, and we waited, and we waited, and 15 minutes, we were still waiting. And, myself included, and my staff were like, when are they going to get ready? And we're like, I don't know. Should we keep waiting? Do we go back on what we said? Like, this isn't working. Well, what's going on? So then, we had to adapt and change it, but we still kept it about what we were going to do. We never told the kids, hey, do this, do that. We just, put that responsibility on them, told them what we would do whenever we saw what we wanted. The next one is the broken record approach. This is my favorite for our 5th graders that know exactly what they should be doing, but they're going to try to push those buttons. So, when you drop a rule, hey, we don't throw kickballs at people's faces. And they're like, but, and you just go, hey, we don't throw kickballs at people's faces. But we don't throw kickballs at people's faces. And you just keep repeating and repeating and repeating the expectation because they already know it and they're just trying to challenge you. And eventually they get worn out because they know that you're not going to budge. You're just going to keep saying the same thing. And that's going to be it. So it's the broken record approach. So you just keep repeating what that expectation is and keep going, and you don't budge from that. And the last one is the I wish, or the what if then, and then come back to the rules. So, that kid that's like, it'd be so much better in this program if we had a Nintendo Switch or a Wii U. Like, that would just make this so much better. And you could, play along with them, be like, I wish we could have that. I really do. I really wish I could just snap my fingers, TV drops down, PlayStation, Wii U, like all of that. And they'd be like, yeah, that would be so cool. And be like, we can't. It's not in the budget. It's not a school appropriate item, whatever the rule is that you can bring back in there. Be like, but if it wasn't, I wish we could have that too. Our biggest one a couple years ago was we were letting the kids help us come up with ideas for snacks. And some of the kids were like, we really want like sushi and like beef jerky. Like, I wish we could, bring in that chef to just make fresh sushi for us. But, I was like, I just have there's this rule about how long food sits out. And, sushi is like, it's like fresh fish. So like, if we set up snack at like 2:30 and you're coming down at 3:30, that's just been sitting there in the warm for like an hour. Like, I just don't know if that's going to happen because there's a rule about how long. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they're like, well, can't you just set it up like when we come down? I was like, yeah, but this rule about like food needing to be cooked and it has to, meet certain requirements. And then, with our older kids, we can go into a little farther about, we work with this company and they make sure that it's all nutritional, blah, 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 blah. But, playing along with what their desires are and then connecting it back to, well, this is why we can't. But at least, again, it's kind of like using empathy. You're connecting with them. You're getting them on your side. They know that, like, if you could just snap your fingers and make it happen, you would. But at the same time, you can't. So this is a big goal for all of us on the front lines, is striving for self-management. So wouldn't it be perfect if the kids just came down, they took care of themselves, they handled all their problems, and we were just there more to like sign parents out and talk to parents and just watch for their safety. So like everything else just happened, the kids do themselves. So really that's our goal, is we want those kids to be self-managed. We want them to, figure out their problems. We want them to be able to go, hey, I need to cut this piece of paper. Oh, I know where the scissors are, and then go and get the scissors. Instead of going, Mr. Kearns, I need scissors, I need glue. Can you get me this? I know right now in our program where the kids are having to stay at their tables because of COVID and they can't do a lot of moving, it's a lot of like, well, I need to cut this paper. Okay. Well, you can cut this paper. No, here's the scissors. Well, no, I need you. They've become very dependent, which we're trying to get them away from. So to get to that self-management, and again, that's the perfect scenario. It's not going to happen, especially those of us working with the wee little ones, but it's a good goal. So you want to make sure what is needed to get back to following the expectations. So if something's going down on the playground, somebody got out in tag or got tagged in kickball, and they are just having that meltdown, that breakdown, what does that child need to get back to where they are following, being safe, kind, responsible? Those are our expectations. Is it a break from the game? Is it they need to go play on the playground? Do they need to go inside? Do they need an ice pack? Do they just need a quick drink or take a walk? But work with them on what it is that they need. And then after they get that, go back to them and say, hey, you know how we solved that? And they're like, well, no, and like, when you were frustrated or you were upset, I just had you take a walk. Is that something that you could do next time you're frustrated? And making sure that they're reflecting on their own problem solving. That way, hopefully, the next time that situation comes up, you can just say, hey, what did we do last time? They go, oh, we took a walk. All right, well, why don't you go ahead and take a walk and come back to the game when you're calm? Okay, and hopefully that, over time of that being repeated, that behavior being repeated, it'll start to stick eventually. Keeping reminders short. So saying walking feet, playing safely with equipment instead of, kids don't want to hear, hey, you know why we don't run in the hallway? Well, this could happen. This could happen. We don't, the door could open. They don't want to hear that whole spiel from you. They've heard it 1,000 times. Just a simple, hey, walking feet, or how do we walk in the hallway? And then go, okay, I got it. And then be on the way. So, with our real little ones, we use like turtle feet. Brad and I were joking with that earlier, but they know turtles move slow. So when they're moving too fast, we just say turtle feet, they know to slow down and become a turtle. So you get the kid that says, well, I'm a ninja turtle. And then he starts kicking and punching. But we won't mention who that kid may or may not have been when he was little. Giving breaks until the kids are ready to rejoin. So we use this one a lot in gym club when kids feel like they've, been treated unfairly, or they got out and they don't think they should be, or, somebody cheated in the game, and their emotions are just running high. So instead of going, you can't be here, or kicking them out or setting them to the side, we just, sit down with them and say, hey, it looks like you need a break until you're ready to play the game. And again, this kind of goes back to the first one. What's going to help you? I want you in the game. What's going to help you get there? And if they're going real, like just yelling and shouting, just a simple, I can't talk to you when you're yelling. So let me know when you're ready to talk. We'll take a quick breath, and then we'll get you back in the game. And then I just walk away. So being able to, drop whatever knowledge I have on them and walking away and let them decide, okay, well, I'm ready. Took a breath, and then they'll come and see me, and then we'll get them right back in the game. So, using words like, you're welcome to stay here if you can follow the directions. If you can't, it's okay. You can make a choice to move to another area or take a break for a few minutes and join us when you're ready. So those are great for gym clubs or out on the playground, when those kids just need that moment to breathe, get the cortisol that's all built up to kind of calm back down before they're ready to join so that they can be successful. Asking questions instead of telling. So when especially with the older students, when they know the right answer, they're being loud in the cafeteria. Is this how loud we should be right now? And they're like, no. So why are we this loud? Well, we're just excited. That's great. You can be excited, but how loud should we be when we're in the cafeteria? Or, is this the type of games we should be playing? That's a common one right now, because as we go outside and the kids want to be all on top of each other and, and be kids like as they should. But because of our COVID procedures, we can't. We just look at it and say, is this a game we should be playing? And like, no, but is it? And then I switch to that broken record. Is this the game that we should be playing? No. All right, let's find something else. And then they'll figure it out. And then I'll probably have to say that same thing in another 5 minutes to the same kids. But, again, we're just training them. None of this is going to be perfect. It's going to work the first time and stick, and the kids are going to be little angels. But these are just tools and strategies to use every time something happens that's continually putting the responsibility back on the kids, because that's the only way they're going to learn. We don't need to be there to solve their problems, because they're not going to learn anything that way. And then redirection. So kids having trouble in one area, just redirecting them to something else. Say, hey, it's not working out playing, with scissors. You keep throwing them. What is a different activity that we can move to? Questions, comments, or anything anybody wants to share? So I want to stop here for a second and do a breakout room. And I want everybody, actually, we probably got 15. Yeah, we can do 2 breakout rooms, Brad. And I want everybody to, in their breakout room, go in, sorry, I just saw the chat box. Go in and practice some enforceable statements. So we're just gonna spend like 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, I guess we'll do 5 minutes, and practice those enforceable statements. So using that phrase of, I will when the group is something, because these are the hardest things I felt for me personally to grasp. And it just takes a lot of practice and takes a lot of doing. And this is where kind of at the beginning I talked about, you know, failing and trying again. There was many times where I was like, I will take you outside when you're ready. And the kids were like, what is this? And, you know, it just took time and me saying it over and over and over to be comfortable, because I would try to every situation. I was like, well, when your voice, hold on, let me, all right, when your voice is as calm as mine. So just let's do a quick breakout room, and I want everybody to practice some enforceable statements really quick.
So I'm going to open the rooms. You'll get an invitation to the rooms. And Tyler said this earlier. Once you get in there, go ahead and turn on your cameras and unmute yourself, and you go first. So don't wait for somebody else, because otherwise you'll sit there and go, okay, who's in charge, whatever. You're in charge. Just think that when you get in, that way somebody will speak up immediately. So 5 minutes, you said, Tyler?
Yes.
Okay, and then I'll send a little 2-minute warning to you. So the rooms are all open. You should have an invitation. So go ahead and click join breakout room, and we'll see you all back here in 5 minutes. All right. And if you can still hear my voice, then you are still in the main room. And if you would like to go to a breakout room, you can just click join. Or if you didn't get assigned one, let me know. So you good, Tyler? Need anything?
No, I'm good. I just needed I flew through that slide watching the time, and forgot that I wanted to do breakout rooms there. I was like, man, I need a break, a breath and a break. Hold on.
So I just sent you that, just a reminder. So
right, 11:15, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think
Okay.
we're good, but it was just I'll probably
Yeah, the
send
next.
when there's 10 minutes and 5. So
Okay. Yeah, the next slides, we may skip the goals. May
that's
take
fine.
that out. I'm seeing a lot of head nodding, which is good.
Good. Good. So I have, since we're recording it, I have just you on there. So I'm not seeing anybody else, which I don't prefer. I like to see if people are engaged and how engaged, but I've just got it on, you know, I'm just you and your screen. So that's good.
It's amazing as I started working with our parent educator, like just like she'd drop knowledge on me, and I'm like, oh, like wait, I could use this. We've done a lot of trainings with her, with our staff, and now that I am a parent, like I'm just always in her office. I'm like, okay, what am I doing wrong with my kids? How do I? And she's like, which kids? You're 70 or you're 2? I'm like,
Both.
the 2. All right.
Yeah, it's amazing how it does change when you have kids at your house and you go, oh, that's kind of how they are, isn't it?
Right.
It's not a bad kid. It's not a great kid. It's just a kid.
Yeah. So we did, we were talking about true colors, I guess last week. And I did the true colors test with my staff at the beginning of January. And my colors have actually changed since having kids.
Oh, wow.
So when I did it at one of the Mosaic trainings with Gail, I was an orange. Orange was the top and then blue. And now it's orange, like those two numbers are still higher, but then it was more of, I think it was gold, which was more of like the
more organized and
organized and rule follower kind of. And I was like, huh.
yeah.
And like my staff is like, no, you are definitely orange. I'm like, no, I can definitely see like since having like kids at the house now, like, just things change of like, you can't just be whimsical and be like, hey, we're going out to dinner, or hey, we're gonna, just do this. It's like
a little bit of structure.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm going to close these rooms. So they've been 4.5 minutes and have a minute to close the room. So I'm going to go ahead and start bringing them back.
Okay.
So you might have them, I don't know if you want them to have them share what they talked about, maybe they can put it in the chat box, or if you have time to have a couple of them. So. And Stephanie is still driving. I don't think Lakewood was that.
I just got to school because I had to go somewhere else, pick up something else for Hornet Club, and then come back to school.
Gotcha.
And I have this meeting. I have a meeting at noon. I have a meeting at 1. It's like nonstop this whole week. I'm a little over it.
All right. Does anybody want to unmute and share your experience? What was it like? Some of you probably use enforceable statements and are pros, but some of you, it may have been brand new. So anybody have any experiences, good or bad, that they would like to share? Yes, you can also post thoughts in the chat box. My chat box just popped up, so now I can see them. Anybody?
I'll tell you one just because I have no problem sharing. There you go. I was telling them that it's a lot of times, like with some of my students, I end up using 2-step like enforceable statements. So with like our 5th and 6th graders, it'll be like, hey, like I will take you guys to guitar as soon as you put your bags against the wall nicely and get lined back up. Because a lot of times if you're like, hey, I'll take you guys to guitar as soon as you get your bags thrown, they're like, whoosh against the wall, right? And then everybody's stepping on each other's stuff and we're throwing it. So it's a lot of, hey, I will do this, almost like 2-step. And then Friday, we run a full day. We're here 6:45 to 5:30 on Fridays. So we did walking to breakfast on Friday with kindergartners. I was like, hey, I will take you guys down to breakfast as soon as you show me your best dinosaur walk, right? Because we walked like dinosaurs on Friday. So the kids were like putting their arms up like T-Rexes or their hands out like pterodactyls. We tried to make it fun because they're here so long during the day on that Friday. I know it's probably, but we tried to make it a little bit fun on the Fridays.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, Megan said, as long as you're framing it as I will and when you, it seems easy to remember, kind of like if-then statements. Exactly. All right. So the next strategy is, or thing to remember, is that you have time. So You don't always have to come up with a consequence at that time. So we use a lot of delayed consequences, and sometimes those could be worse for the kids of, you know, when they push those buttons and you know that there's something coming, and it's just that, hey, I'm not in a good frame of mind. Like, if I were to give you something right now, it's probably going to be that you miss the rest of the day. Like, that's where I've gotten to. Right now, you need to sit and take a break, or, you know, whatever your verbiage is at your site, and I will be back to talk to you in just a minute. So it doesn't have to be immediate. It could be that delayed consequence of, I will come back and let you know what's going to happen. Is it, you know, are you losing activities, whatever. So with that, you also have delayed responses. So those of you that communicate with parents, you don't have to respond back immediately. One of my new site leaders this year actually taught me, he goes, I have the rule of 24. I was like, what is the rule of 24? He's like, when I get, and, you know, it could be any parent communication, but especially like an upset parent or a parent challenging something, he goes, I give it 24 hours. I think on it. I maybe write a couple drafts, but I give it 24 hours before I respond. I'm like, I like that. Like, I'm one that as soon as my phone dings, if it's a parent, I feel like I have to respond back. But, you know, sometimes it dings at 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night or 4 in the morning when the parent's getting up for work. I don't have time or can't respond to those. So you have the luxury of, you know, waiting a little bit, and then just making sure frontline staff that you think before you speak. So don't jump in right away. You know, think about what you're saying to the kids, because ultimately you are that child's role model. You are that mentor. So you need to make sure that what's coming out of your mouth is not only one, appropriate, but two, it matches and uses all of these other strategies when we're building our conversations with our kids. An important one is when you have a big team is the ability to tag out. So again, when those buttons get pushed, when you have a team of 3, 4, 5 other staff members, put it on somebody else, work as a team. So if I know I've hit my limit, I'm not getting anywhere with the student, I just go, hey, Miss Hay, can you come take care of this? Or, hey, I need somebody to step in, you know, even just to sit with that student and talk with them, so I can go out and catch a breath of fresh air and come back in. So just making sure that you're, you know, using your team appropriately, tagging out when necessary, because when you're at your limit, it's not going to be good for anybody, because now you have a kid that's at their limit, you have you at your limit, and now it's just a clash. You want to make sure that everybody's de-escalated before anything else happens. And even if that means, like I said, tagging somebody to come and play a game of Connect 4 with that student so you can go catch a breath of fresh air, get a drink, come back, and then work with that student when you're in a good frame of mind. Outcomes versus consequences. So this is something our program is focusing on. They're two very similar words that mean very similar things, but it's the way that you frame it. So an outcome is something that happens because of an action or something that the student did. So because you chose to throw whatever markers down the toilet, you have to now be escorted to the bathroom. It wasn't like what's happening is a direct outcome of what happened. A consequence, the way I phrase it to my staff, is when you go, you did this, okay, go sit in the corner, or go sit against the wall, or just go sit down there. So the consequence doesn't necessarily relate to the action that happened. It's just that, it's just a consequence. A lot of the time it's an authoritative consequence of you did this, so you need to go sit out. We need to make sure there's an outcome, or what my staff is working on is to make sure that there's an outcome that's related to what the behavior that happened. So again, one of our rules is that you go down the slide feet first. So, you know, the kids want to be kids, they want to go head first. The direct outcome is, you know, after you've gone down the slide head first, you may have to take a break from the playground. Because you did this, this is the outcome. Not, well, because you went down the slide head first, you need to go sit for 10 minutes. And you can try again when you come back. There's no correlation there. So we want to make sure that the outcomes are matching the behavior that happened. This gives the kids an opportunity to learn and correct themselves, and figure out, you know, that kind of that chain of what's going on and what comes next. So because I did this, this is what's going to happen. Because I walked off, you know, out of the program, I may not get to come back. So there's a direct outcome with that because of something that happened. And the biggest one for our staff is don't force the I'm sorry. You know, a lot of times, especially young staff come in and that's all that they know. They know if somebody hurts somebody else, they need to go, hey, you need to go apologize. And those of you that have been in the game for a while, you know what's going to happen. Walk up and go, I'm sorry, or I'm sorry, and just walk away. There's no, like, the apology wasn't meant, like, the kid didn't want to, they didn't mean anything by it. They're not really sorry. They're like, no, he just punched me in the face, so I threw the kickball at him. I'm not sorry for that. So we don't want to say, okay, just go over and apologize and make it up for it. We want to connect it to what's going on. So, you know, in that situation, you know, somebody throws the ball at somebody else and hurts them, you know, we'll say, hey, how can we make this better for them? You know, can you check on them? Can you go get them an ice pack? You know, what can we do for them to make this better? And sometimes the kid will say, well, I want to apologize. And then if they want to, perfect. All right, let's go for it. Go apologize. But I'm not telling them to go, hey, you need to go do this. I'm letting the child come up with and taking the responsibility of the action that they took to figure out that outcome. Another strategy is to be present. So one of those ways to be present is leaving your day at the door. So some of us work split shifts, right? We work morning and afternoon. Some of us just work afternoon, but there's a whole lot of day in between that something can make our day miserable or just not have a good day or just stress and normal stress in our life. So if you can just come up to the door at 3 o'clock or 3:30, drop your bag off and come in the door and just know that you're coming in to work with kids. You have, you know, 3 hours or 2.5 hours to make these kids have the best day that they can. We're going to do that by leaving our stress and our day at the door. So that way you can change your mindset, flip the switch, be there for those kids. Then if you want to, pick up your bag of stress on the way and take it home with you and sort it out then. The 2.5 hours that we're with kids is not the 2.5 hours to worry about everything that's going on. You know, if I always tell my staff, if it's that big of a deal that it can't be left at the door, maybe you should take the day off and get, you know, whatever it is sorted. Because I know we all have lives outside of work. And it's important that we take care of that because I want you to be the best that you can be here. But to do that, we need to make sure we leave our stress and our day at the door. Minimize distractions. So if that means, you know, keeping your cell phone away or putting it up or, you know, anything that could be a distraction during the time that you're in there with the kids, just take it out, you know, put it in the closet. I've had a lot of staff that are like, just, you know, especially young staff, they're like, well, when I just feel it vibrate or it buzz, like I just have to look at them. Like, okay, put it in the cabinet, lock it up, and like, we'll keep it secure, but let's take that distraction out. If you can handle it, I don't mind if you have it, but you need to be able to handle that responsibility. Interact with students. So I put the safely in there for, you know, COVID times because we can't get down with them and play with them and, you know, interact with them in the same ways. But and the next one is be engaged in the program. So have conversations with the kids, talk about, you know, what they're doing, what they like. I know a big question my staff always asks me is they're like, well, I need to engage with our 4th and 5th graders. How do I do that? I'm like, talk to them, sit down with them, find out, you know, what video games they're playing, what movies they're watching, what sports teams that they like. You know, they may like we have a lot of students that like basketball. I have no idea about NBA. Like I probably can't even name 5 NBA teams, but if I will sit down and have a conversation about basketball with, you know, our 5th graders or our 4th graders, just to find out more about it. I let them teach me. I'm like, okay, so there's this team and this team, like there's playoffs and, you know, and I just get them talking. I just ask questions. Sometimes I just play dumb, like, I don't know anything about football, like teach me. And you know, that just gets them engaging into what's going on. So sit down, have those conversations. You know, right now, come up with creative ways that you can play games. So there's times when it'll be down to like just 2 students. So we'll put like Connect 4 in the middle of a table and both players will stand 6 feet from the table and the one will walk up and drop their spot and they'll go away and the other one will walk up. But it's just becoming engaging into that program and kind of bringing back some normalcy. Kind of with that tag out that we talked about earlier, work as a team. So make sure everyone does everything. So, you know, you're not just the gym person or the arts and crafts person, but that you're contributing in all ways, you know, that you're doing announcements with the kids, that you're taking the kids outside, that you're the gym person, you know, that you're coming up with the game. So everybody needs to pitch in from the site leader all the way down to the frontline staff. Everybody should be fully engaged and kind of doing everything. Make sure as a team you're picking each other up, so fill in each other's buckets, have fun together, energize each other, and just play. Like there's a lot of times where the staff and I have like games with each other that we're playing while we're working with the kids, and sometimes the kids pick up on it, sometimes they don't, and they're like, "What? Why are you guys throwing this ball around?" But it's our way to keep each other energized so we can be the best that we can be for the kids. And the biggest one for new staff is just ask questions. So if you're brand new to programs and you don't know what's going on, you can learn by watching, but the quickest way to learn is just ask questions. Ask why, ask your coordinator, ask your supervisor, why are we doing this? What's the reason behind this? What should I be doing? When this happens, what should I be doing? Or, listen to what's going on around you. And I always tell my staff, I'm like, if you hear me say something or talk to the kids, like come up and say, hey, like, what did you say to them? What did you say to get them where they're at right now? That way I can use that later. So just making sure you're asking questions. So I pulled this picture of foosball and I asked my staff, and I want to ask you, why do you think, there's tons of, if you Google teamwork pictures or team building pictures, there's tons of things that pop up. Why would I have chosen foosball over everything that I could have picked? Any guesses?
I want to guess, Tyler, because there's your partner's on the other side of the table next to the other person. I don't know.
Good guess. Good reasoning. Not my reason. Anybody else? Be confident, even if you're going to mess up.
Is it because they all move together?
Exactly. So foosball, they're all connected. So when one player goes left, they all go left. When one player goes right, they all go right. As an after-school staff, this is you. Your decisions, your choices, what you say to one kid and the way that they take it is going to affect everybody else. Because if you shut down on a kid playing kickball and you send him to me on the playground, he's coming to me with a bad attitude. So now I have to readjust and be able to work with the student. So as a team, make sure you are moving together, that you're consistent, that, it's not well, I'm going to go ask, Mr. Kearns, because I know that Brad is going to say no, but I know Tyler is going to say yes. So I'm going to go ask, Tyler, or I'm going to tell Brad, like, well, Tyler told me I could do this. Right? It's the classic mom versus dad. Well, mom said I could. Well, I guess if mom said. So as a team, you need to make sure you're consistent, but as a foosball team, you want to make sure that you're all moving together. And the most important, have fun and play. It wouldn't be my presentation if there wasn't some mention about playing. So I've already talked a little bit about it, but have those inside games that you play with the kids. So there's probably, in one of our programs, there's 30 kids. I have a different little like game, whether it's a hand game or, a paper ball or something like that, that we just play whenever the kids know whenever I come in, we're eventually going to be playing and engaging and having fun. And the staff do it too. We have those games and jokes and things like that. So just have fun with each other, play. It's one of the best jobs that somebody can have, in my point of view, of just working with kids. So I know at the end of the school year, we always do a 4th and 5th grade takeover. So our 4th graders get to lead the program for a week, and then our 5th graders get to lead the program for a week, and then the kids and the teachers all vote to see which ones were better program leaders. And usually by the end of it, the 5th graders, there's at least 1 or 2 that go, this is your job. Like, this is what you get paid for. You get to show up and play kickball and do art and like hang out with us. Like, that's what you get paid to do. I was like, yeah, pretty much. But like, this is the best job ever. Like, yeah. And then some of them will go, you must make a lot of money. I'm like, well, there's room for improvement there. But, they're like, this just, what other job do you get to do that you get to just be with kids and have fun and be a kid yourself? So just making sure, when you come, that you're having fun and that you're, playing with the kids and your staff alike. So that's what I got. Hopefully, those tips, tricks, and strategies were, reminders for some of you, some things that were like, oh yeah, I remember learning about that. I remember doing that. I haven't thought about that in, years. And for some of you that maybe just be starting out, you picked out something that you can go to the program this afternoon and try. So my name's Tyler Kearns. I do lots of different trainings, lots of different speakings on play, leadership. It's all there at the bottom. Thank you all for being on. It's been great. And we have like 2 minutes for questions. Or not.
Any thoughts anybody wants to throw out? All right. Well, thank you, Tyler, for sharing that with us. Great little tips. Again, it's not rocket science, but it's simple things that people sometimes we forget if we knew it. Sometimes some of our staff don't know coming in. So it's great information, Tyler. Thanks.